Good morning from Vietnam, and thanks a lot for being so generous to join our Inside Sharing and share your stories with our audience. And on behalf of the listeners, I want to say thank you to you.
This is my absolute pleasure to be on your podcast. Thank you for inviting.
You're welcome. Anna, since you haven't been to Vietnam, please accept our invitation to come. So if you ever travel here with Laban, please let us know, and we'll be so happy to take you guys around town. All right?
Thank you, with pleasure.
And in our culture, it's very honored for our listeners if we can have you to do a little bit of introduction of who you are and the work that you do. Would you please do that?
Yeah, absolutely. This is my favorite question. So I'm affectionately known as the world's best life optimization coach. And I'm also a hypnotherapist. And I help people to overcome their childhood traumas, any kind, whether it's physical, mental, verbal, or sexual abuse. And the reason why I'm doing this is because I went through childhood sexual abuse myself.
Oh.
And I was silent for 20 years. And 3 years ago, I finally had the courage to tell my husband what was happening to me when I was a child. And everything started from there. And I'm sure we will explore this in more details. But now I'm really helping people to become, to reclaim their power and bring their voice back.
Wow. Thanks, Anna, for sharing that. I'm sorry for what happened when you were young as a child, and having abuse is already bad. Having sexual abuse is even worse, right? Out of all the abuses. So, and I'm glad that you were able to share that with your loved ones and find a way to heal you, but also congratulate you on the way that you were able to turn it into actions and make it try to help people out of your real story, so that whoever faced with trauma in their lives will be able to find solutions that can help them to overcome their challenges, right? So let's go to the incident happened. Would that be okay if you can share a little bit more with us?
Absolutely, and I know every single country has this problem, but not everyone has courage to talk about this. Because very often when it happens to a child, it's very shameful for a child to open up. And the problem is because our society is not receptive to those kind of things. And so very often the child gets shut down and just keep carrying this burden within themselves. And that was me. And I want to start the story when I was 4 years old. I was abandoned by my biological father. And my younger brother was just 9 months old. And so my mom became a 24 years old, a mother of two during the Russian economic depression. And it was very hard for us. It was very hard financially, mentally, and physically. We were struggling a lot. For 6 years, I had to grow up very fast. I had to grow up and look after my younger brother. Can you imagine at 4 years old, when your subconscious, when your beliefs just started to form, to formulate, you literally, all what you think about yourself is sinking into your head. And for me, it was, I'm not good enough. My father left me. This is my fault. I'm not loved. I didn't have a childhood. And 6 years later, when I was 10 years old, my mom met my stepfather. And it's like finally the knight in shining armor. Like he was an amazing man. He was an army guy. And we thought, finally, we have a protector, we have a supporter in our life, we have a man. But few months later, he revealed his true face, how horribly disciplinarian and abusive this man was. And everything started from verbal abuse. And every time we would do something with my brother, as a kid, do something wrong, he would grab his army leather belt.
Wow.
And he would just start literally physically abusing, especially my brother. We couldn't protect ourselves. And my mom couldn't stop his tyrannical parenting because she got scared as well. She got scared. And at those times in Russia, it was very shameful for a woman to be a single mother. So she literally allowed him to do anything he wanted, just so we have a family, so we have a man in our house. And this is something I want to address, because so many women just cope with those kind of abuses because they simply do not believe in themselves, because they simply have a very low esteem, and they become codependent on men. And we learn very quickly how to walk on the eggshells. And we realized with my brother that kids' emotions meant nothing for my stepfather. When we were crying, he would just sometimes smash our heads against the wall, so we just stopped crying. It wasn't easy, but you know what? We were conditioned to literally obey the rules. We were conditioned to be a good kid and do whatever he wants, whatever he tells us. That's where the people pleasing came. And when I was 15, that's when he started sexually abusing me. And the abuse started from small things. But because I was so afraid and I knew what he's capable of, I frozen. I frozen when everything started. And I was blaming myself for a long time for this.
Oh, no.
But he also threatened me, if I tell it to anyone, he will destroy my mom's and my brother's life. And so I wanted to protect them. The abuse was going for 6 years. It resulted in 2 pregnancies and in 2 forced illegal abortions when I was 15 and when I was 16. When I was 21, I realized that I can't live in this life like this anymore. It's a really lonely and very scary place when you carry this burden within yourself and when you have no one to talk to. Because I knew if I would tell my mom, I don't know how she would react, honestly. And the problem was, he was always telling me that my mom is not going to believe me, that she's going to hate me and expel me from the house. And I love my mom. And that was the most scariest thing for me, to lose my mom. But when I was 21, I felt like, I'm going to kill myself, or I have to exit the house. And I left the house. And he was furious. He wanted me to live in the house, so he has an access to me. And I said, I can't. And he said, if you leave the house, I'm going to expel your mother from the house. At this point, I realized that my mom really doesn't want to be saved, because I begged her to leave him for a long, long time. But she didn't. She didn't want to. She didn't want to be saved. Even though he was very abusive physically and verbally towards her. And very few women realize actually what is happening when they in this situation. Many women, they would just get used to these conditions. And I didn't know any better. And so I left the house. He divorced my mom. She didn't realize what was happening. And then fast forward, when I got married, I wanted to have kids. I wanted to become a mother. But every time I would get pregnant, I would lose my baby. I would lose the pregnancy. And 10 different doctors in Australia, by those time I moved to Australia, they couldn't find any physical reason. And when I was going through miscarriage number 11, and it's very painful. I'm sure if a woman would have even one miscarriage, she would understand me. When I was going through my miscarriage number 11, the doctor called me aside and he said, Anna, we can't find any physical reason why you're having those miscarriages, and it's nothing to do with your partner. And this is something to do with here, with your mind, and with your heart. And I knew exactly what it was. And then I decided to tell my husband what's happened to me. It was the best decision I've ever made. That's how my healing journey started. My husband convinced me to start telling my story, to go to talk to hypnotherapists, to talk to psychologists, to talk to counsels, because I thought I dealt with that myself. But what I did, I just bottled it down. I just sort of forgot about this. But it was driving all my life, because sometimes I would have those triggers, those fears. And fast forward, I finally was able, mentally I was prepared to tell my mom what was happening. Because bear in mind, she didn't really realize why my stepfather just threw her away from the house. And she always wanted to get back with him. But when I told her, she told me, Anna, why didn't you tell me? And I said, Mom, I really was afraid that you're going to hate me for this. And she said, Anna, you are my daughter. I love you so much. And even if the whole world will be against you, I will always stay by your side. 20 years of struggling in fear and shame and guilt and pain just went in front of my eyes. And I thought, wow, why did I wait for so long to tell her why I've been struggling for so long? And we became so close. We just reconnected. She turned into a mama bear. She literally, she nearly killed him. She wanted to kill him. And this is the woman who would never ever tell anyone like anything bad to this person. And she straight away pressed criminal charges against him. And I had to fly from Australia back to Russia to testify against my perpetrator. And I did. And I reclaimed my power back. I reclaimed my voice back. And when I was in Russia, I realized we don't have any childhood sexual abuse survivors support in my hometown. And I wanted to do something about this. And I just went publicly with my story. I called the biggest publisher in my hometown and I asked them, would you be interested to publish my story? And one journalist said yes. 3 journalists told me, oh no, we can't, this is too heavy. This is too heavy. And this is the problem, because society many people just, they can't take this information, and many people just, look away because it's so painful. They can't face it. And so when my article went published, I left my email address and I said, girls, if you are going through a similar situation and you have no one to talk to, send me an email. Hundreds and hundreds of emails I received from women saying, thank you. Thank you for opening up. Thank you for bringing this topic. I feel so much better that I'm not alone. And I just wanted to tell you, listeners, if someone is going through a similar experience, you are not alone.
Yeah.
And what I had to learn through my own healing journey, that it wasn't my fault. This is never your fault. Because as a child, you're not responsible for what's happening with you. As an adult, they are responsible. Because a normal man, even if the girl would, I don't know, naked and jump on his lap or something and start kissing him, normal, responsible man would always push her away and say, hey, you have a problem here. Go and put your clothes on and let's talk, right?
Yep.
Not responsible man would probably do something. But what I'm trying to say is there are always people who went through a similar experience and are so open to help. And I started my own podcast called World's Best Trauma Recovery Podcast because I wanted to provide a platform for people like me to tell their stories of healing and happiness. Because it is possible to heal from this trauma. It is possible to reclaim your power and being happy and have a joy in your life again. So I turned my trauma into my superpower. And that's what I'm helping people with. This is my short story.
And I'm so sorry for all the things that happened when you was like 15, 16 years old, and that was not acceptable at all as for whatever that it did to you. I'm sorry for what happened, and I wanna bring you to the point on the day with your 11th miscarriage. I know I don't bring it back. Hope it's not bring you pain memories, but I want to ask you, how did you feel in your head before you talked to your husband? What courage did you give you?
That's a really amazing question. And no one asked me this before, to be honest. So thank you so much. I had 16 miscarriages altogether, including 2 ectopic pregnancies. And ectopic pregnancies, it's when the pregnancy is growing in not in the uterus, but in fallopian tubes or outside the fallopian tubes or outside the organs. And it's very dangerous because when it grows, it can burst your fallopian tube. That's what happened to me. When I was having my 11th miscarriage, it was a lot of pain. It was a lot of disappointment and anger at myself, firstly, because I couldn't understand why I can't keep this pregnancy. What's wrong with me? What do I do wrong? Why is it happening to me? And it was a lot of hate towards me and towards doctors as well, to be honest, because no one couldn't give me an answers why this is happening. And so I was like blaming everyone around myself, not realizing that the body keeps the score, which means our traumas and our stuck emotions can prevent us from something. And the more stuck emotions like pain, shame, guilt we have in our body, the more diseases they are leading towards. And I was very, I'm just trying to think what I was thinking. I think it was very hard for me not being able to know what is happening with me, not being able to control this. And I'm sure many women would understand me, because this is something that is out of our control, to be honest.
Yeah.
So probably, yeah, most of those feelings were anger and disappointment.
And what courage did you give to yourself for you to decide that today is the day I'm gonna talk to my husband though?
It was growing day by day. The reason why I told it to my husband is because when we met, God bless this man. He was so honest and so open about his past, about his trauma with me. He would always talk about this freely. And so we were a year and a half into our relationship. He just made me feel so safe, so like open with him. And I think it makes a huge difference what kind of people you're talking with, because not many people would understand you. But my husband, because he went through his trauma, and I'm sure you talked about this on your podcast before, he made me feel like I can open up to this man. And that was it wasn't more about courage, but it was more about feeling safe. And plus, we wanted baby so bad, like so strong, that I thought it's not fair for him to not know what was the reason.
Wow.
And he took it so beautifully. He took it the way I always wanted him to take. He reacted the way that I always dreamed about. He became so supportive.
Wow.
So supportive.
See? And I think that each of us will always have a box hidden inside of ourselves, right? And that box can carry anything. It's a good memory, bad memory, less memory to the worst memory that we don't want people to understand, to see, to listen, or to hear about it, right? And it's so kind of him to be able to give you the support so that you eventually open that secret box out and share the deepest, the darkest things in your life to him. And that is the starting of all the changes. You didn't make any mistake as a child, but then all the things that happen to keep, you bury those memory into that box, and if that box is not open, the healing never happens, right? So it's very kind of him to create that environment for Anna to really really open up safely and comfortably to share. So and you took it to the next level, Anna. You took it really to the next level, because the sharing only healed for you, right? But then if you share it more to the public, it let people out there aware that they themselves did not make any mistake in that circumstances, and then they need to raise up their voice. So tell me, how do you feel after you talk to your mom first?
Oh my goodness, it was so scary. So scary. But you know what? I was prepared for any outcome, to be honest. And I just want to tell your listeners, if you want to open up to your loved ones, do not do it just like do some healing for yourself. Do healing with people who understand you, what you are going, because you become so vulnerable. You become so open to any sort of responses. Because I was blessed when I opened up to my mom. But you know what's happened? A year before I told her about my stepfather, I tried to tell her that I was sexually abused when I was 15, but she wasn't take it. So she dismissed. She said, "So what? So many people are getting abused." It's not because she's a bad mom, but because it's really scary to hear it. You don't know how to react.
Yep.
And so she just closed up, and she just didn't want to hear it.
Yeah.
But when I finally opened up the second time, I was prepared mentally. I was stronger. I was much stronger. And so I decided I'm going to tell her who sexually abused me. But I know people from my podcast guests whose parents didn't like it, whose parents just said, "You're a liar. You just do this for, to accuse some good man." So I felt really relieved when I told my mom, really relieved. But I was prepared for any reaction. And that's what I want to tell to your listeners. Please be prepared for any reaction. If you feel like you're still vulnerable, if you feel like you're still very weak and you won't be able to handle some negativity, don't do this. Do not do that. Sometimes the healing journey needs to take place not with the most loved people, but with someone who knows what you're going through, who can provide you the support.
Beautiful. Beautiful. How is the feeling sitting in the courtroom and testifies against the man who abused you for years? After 20 years, going back there and testified against him?
Great question. We didn't go to court.
Oh.
And this is another lesson. We didn't go to court just because it happened 18 years ago and the court didn't have enough evidence to take it to the court. I didn't meet face to face with him, but the feeling that I'm finally telling this story and that I'm not afraid of him anymore was so empowering. It was so empowering. And I knew that now he is the person who is going to pay back. And I forgave him. I honestly forgave him. When I realized what kind of childhood he had, I understand why he did this to me. Because his father was very abusive, and so he grown up powerless, and he wanted to get this power back. And so who is the best, person? Kids, of course. They can't respond to you. I forgave him, but it doesn't mean I didn't keep him accountable.
Yep.
It's very important thing. Forgiving is not, telling yourself it's okay, whatever's happened is okay. No, you still need to keep your perpetrator accountable, because you never know, maybe this perpetrator is doing the same thing to other kids. And I found out when I opened up, I found out that my stepfather was trying to do the same thing with my friend, but she was so scared to tell. See, that's the power. That's the power, me telling my story. So I didn't see him face to face, but he left the country as soon as the police call him. They invited him. He told them, I don't know what she's talking about. She's probably, on drugs or something, whatever. But he left the country,
Wow.
which is a sign, of course.
Of course.
But the good thing that when I opened up, when I was in a police station, when this happened for the very first time, when I was 15, I told my school friend for the first time. But because she knew how horribly abusive my father was, she got scared and she didn't tell our secret to anyone. And so when we were testifying against him, I haven't spoken to this friend for 17 years, and she came to help me. Beautiful. She came to support me. Yes, and she did testify that I told her at those time. And so we reunited with my dear friend after many years.
Wow. How's your mom and your brother now?
How they reacted?
How do they feel after knowing all of that, and and your stepfather is no longer part of their life? How do they feel?
Not my mom. She was so angry, and she was blaming herself a lot for what happened to me, and this overwhelming feel of guilt. She couldn't stand it, because she just couldn't comprehend how bad mother you have to be to allow this happen. But how she could know? My brother was so angry at my stepfather, so angry, and he also had some guilt for not being able to protect me. So you need to be ready for those kind of things, because I was able to help my mom to go through this.
Yeah.
I was able to help my brother to deal with a lot of anger with this situation, because it's hard for them. Imagine something would happen to your family member and you're just powerless. You can't do anything. It's like it's gone. It's really, really hard.
He was also a teenager back then. It's not his fault also, right? So it's your mom also. So the accountability and responsibility is held by the man, the adult. So so well, Anna. So fast forward to what you are doing now. All right, and that is the best part of the story is you advocate and help people to not facing those challenges again, not being alone in that, every time they face with such horrific incidents, right? And be able to step up and fight for themselves. So tell me, how did you find the courage to take that new path though?
When I open up about my story, I really felt responsible for those kids who don't have a power, who don't have a voice. And I've realized that people like me who went through this, we keep it in a secret. And the more we keep a secret, the more this happening in the world.
Yep.
The more we keep quiet, the more it's happening with those younger kids. And I've decided, especially after I received so many letters from women in Russia, I've decided that I want to become the loudest voice for those people. Because it's not about healing, it's about preventing those kind of crime.
Yeah.
Because if a man would know, and a woman and the teenagers, if they would know that that their victim would speak up, and the perpetrator will go to jail, and everyone in his community would find out what was happening. Guess what? He will think twice, 3 times, 10 times before he will do this. So this is very important. The more we speak up, the more we're preventing this kind of crime. And now what I do, I became a hypnotherapist because hypnotherapy really helped me to face all my deepest, darkest. Even though we don't want people to find out about this, because we always think that people will think we are, something is wrong with us. It's very shameful, especially in Vietnamese country. Like, it's not something you would talk about. Because it is shameful. And I, as a hypnotherapist, this is what helped me the most to open up. And I've done so many things. I visited shamans, I visited psychologists, counselors, NLP specialists, psyche specialists, like you name it. I've tried it all. But hypnotherapy really helped me to look deeper. And I just want to bring this gift of hypnotherapy to the world to help people to heal from their childhood trauma. Because we think, okay, it happened in the past, like forget it. It's happened, and so just forget it and move on. It doesn't work like this. It doesn't work like this, because when something really significant is happening to us, like sexual abuse, this trauma is associated with negative emotions. And those negative emotions get trapped in our body. And so we don't realize that the whole thing is literally running our life. If we get scared of something that might be not really significant, like the fear of men. I couldn't stay in a man in one room. I would get a panic attacks, and I couldn't understand why. Like what's wrong with that? But when I was healing, I realized that it's because I couldn't. It would remind me what's happened to me. And so when we think, move on. No, you can't move on. It's like carrying a huge rock with yourself, with you. Huge burden. And as I said, it can be a very lonely and scary place. So
Anna, what is the one message that you want the world to know from Anna?
I want to tell that this is not your fault, what's happened to you, but it is your responsibility what you're gonna do with that. Whether you're gonna carry this burden with you and pass it on to our next generations, and believe me, they will feel it, or you will reclaim your power and turn your trauma into your superpower, because after what you've gone through, there is nothing to break you down. There is nothing to scare you. And please, if you are ready to free yourself from this burden, find people who know what you're going through.
Wow.
And tell your story.
Beautiful. Anna, with that message, I think the thinking is very important, because you have to think and then decide how your reaction is going to be, right? And you are the very special guest in my show out of the 504th person joining. And over the past 18 months, my wife and I have been on the quest to help people to improve their ability to think, because we believe if we think right, then we will find the right decisions followed by the right actions, and And I want to ask for the secrets out of your life, all of the up and downs, all of the revolutions and everything that you went through. What is your method of thinking that helping you to expand your world now? Can you share with us?
Oh, another great question. You know how what I've learned for myself is listen to your heart.
Mm,
Listen to your heart, because where your heart is, that's where your truth is.
mm,
Because our mind cannot think sometimes as you want it to be, but because we have a lot of influence from our parents, teachers, colleagues, whoever is in your life, and sometimes we're getting lots of information and confused what we really want.
mm.
But when you listen to your heart, when you trust yourself,
Um,
when you really feel what is your true desire in this life, and it can be simply as being happy and have a joy and calmness in your life,
mm.
just follow those emotions, follow your heart. And that's what I had to learn on a very hard way.
Thanks for the advices, and I think the heart never lies to us, right? Yeah,
Exactly.
the heart is separated from the brain and the mind, so the heart will be, telling you how you truly feeling from the inside. If we know how to listen and respond to it properly, then definitely we will pick a lot of good, clues for how it can help us to think better and to make better decisions. So thanks a lot for sharing. My last question before we end is about the future. We know the 4 years old Anna was struggling to try in her best to support her mom and her 9 month old brother. Then few years later, she thought that the family is unite is gonna be okay with the new, you know, father to come in and a new man figure, right? Turned out to be, a nightmare, and she was able to fight back and help other people to find a voice. So, heading to the future a little bit, is there anything that exciting you are doing or about to be doing you want to share with us so that we can celebrate with Anna in advance?
Well, the biggest thing, probably, we are still working on bringing this baby in the world.
Mm,
So I will keep you updated.
please.
After 16 miscarriages, it would be the biggest miracle for me. So this year, and in lunar calendar, it's my year, a year of rabbit.
Mm,
So hopefully it's gonna happen. That this is my focus, and I keep helping people, keep helping them to reclaim their power and their voice. I am starting a new podcast. It's called Happy on the Inside.
ah,
It's it's a very very important, because so many people look happy on the outside, but internally they're struggling with fears and pain and guilt and anger. And so I want to help people to be happy on the inside as outside as well.
beautiful.
And yeah, just keep going what I'm doing. This is my passion. This is my purpose in life. This is my why I'm here on this planet.
Beautiful. So Anna, I'll be joining your podcast as one of the guests again, okay? Because I have a good story to share with you about my life also. And
Ah, oh, yes.
yeah, and well, Thanks a lot for being so generous to spend your time to join our Inside Sharing show and share your stories. And please, I wish you all the best in this year and many years to come. And everything that you design once will, will happen. And I hope one day I'll be able to give you a big hug and and have some drinks with you and Lemon for all to celebrate life together, because at the end, like you say, the happiness is a thing that coming from the inside, right? So if we can internalize it, then you will always have the strength to overcome all the challenges. And thanks for doing that. All right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. You go and have a wonderful day, and say hello to Lemon for me, okay?
I will. When do you think this podcast will be out?
In about 10 weeks' time. I'll share with you in advance.
Yeah, perfectly. Let me know, and I will promote on my social media. Absolutely. And with my email. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye, my friend.
See ya. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.